Jake, I have to say, um, again, I'm a pedestrian writer. My prose is functional. Um, it's hard for me to write. I have to rewrite a great deal to get it smooth. I repeat words within the same paragraph. It's sloppy, but that's partly because my mind jumps around a lot. I mean, if I've been born with anything, it's an imagination, and I have now on my computer, which I'm speaking to right at the moment. Um, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 files of book ideas, all of which would be, and short story ideas, all of which would be valid. I'm not going to have the time at this age to write them or the energy to write them. And one has to pick and choose, of course. But I can't explain where they come from. There's nothing magical about it. There's no muse. I don't believe in muses. I believe in human imagination. And that's where Lincoln came from. Probably after I had seen an adventure thriller flick, and we all know the big budget kinds of thrillers, and we come down to the end, and here's your hero, and it could be, I love Bruce Willis movies. Who doesn't? Who doesn't love them? Who are some of the other great thriller actors? The Tom Cruise. I go sit through those. I eat popcorn. I love them. I get as excited as anybody else. But we come down to the end of the story, and there's invariably that scene, big climactic scene, which somehow has to occur on a cliff. I don't know. It's like I live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. If there were a thriller set here, somehow there would be a huge cliff. I don't know how that happens. But anyway, the script writer says we've got to have a big cliff. So, and the villain, who may be someone like Jeremy Irons doing a villain turn for the fun of it. Why not? I think that's great. Is beating up. I'll pick on Bruce Willis here, and he's picking up Bruce Willis and throwing him into the laboratory. There's glass because there has to be glass, and everything's shattering, and there's fire going on, and the police are at the door, but they can't get in, and so it's clear that Jeremy Irons is going to kill Bruce Willis according to the direction of the story, the flow of the story, and he's beat up, and he just can't survive, and he's knocked out, and at that point, Bruce Willis suddenly remembers, has a flashback, a recovered memory of the time his father taught him to kickbox, and he'd resented his father all these years, but now he can reconcile with his father and remember the kickboxing, so he jumps up and kickboxes, Jeremy Irons over the cliff. Or he remembers that the gun that we saw not so subtly hidden, taped up under the table, he remembers that it's there, he pulls it out. And then with a wise quip, says, something like, so here's some lead for you, or something, something along those lines. I'm not at my most creative at the moment. I'm not an early morning person either, but, and I thought, it's a convention. It has to end that way. But what if you had a villain stalking somebody, and this somebody only had his mental faculties to defeat the villain, who used who used knives and guns or whatever he was using, and he had only his mental capacity to defeat the villain and stop him from being a serial killer or whoever it was, a la Sherlock Holmes, of course, who I've always loved. I read him when I was young too, all the short stories and the few novels. Doyle didn't write too many novels, but I love the short stories. And I said, well, I thought back to Perry Mason, and Raymond Burr played Ironside, a character in a wheelchair, paraplegic, paralyzed from the waist down. And I thought, I want to go all the way. I want to have a character who is completely incapable of movement, who is pure mind. And then I like playing with the idea that not only is he up against, that is the character who became Lincoln Rhyme, not only is he up against this villain and he has to use his mind, but he's up against himself, because he's considering whether or not he wants to continue living, to be or not to be, a choice everyone has, and based on circumstance. And the quadriplegia is a very difficult condition, of course. And I decided that I was going to give it a shot. I'm just going to try it. and see what happened. And lo and behold, people fell in love with him. And his, he's a curmudgeon, but he's utterly ethical. He has no patience for any kind of illegality, for laziness, for duplicity. And he took off. And then it didn't hurt that Denzel Washington and Angelina Jolie starred in the film. And then he really took off. And my job is to give my readers books they want. End of story. I'm very troubled when I hear an author say, I write what I want and I don't care about the audience. Well, that's fine. I say I'm troubled, but there's going to be that reader who liked that book of yours 2 years ago and wants something in the same vein, and you give them this kind of gobbledygook that you're happy with. But we're making, my analogy in my courses is mint flavored toothpaste. People don't want liver flavored toothpaste. They want mint flavored toothpaste. And that's what I, as an author, am going to give them. People like Lincoln Rhyme. Lincoln Rhyme is here to stay.